Your compliance program just failed an audit, again. And you're the one explaining why. That sinking feeling as you prepare to face leadership with the bad news is all too familiar. Compliance failures aren't just embarrassing. They expose your organization to fine reputation damage and security vulnerabilities that could lead to breaches. The challenge isn't your dedication. It's that compliance is a moving regulation, threats grow, and your team is stretched thin. Cybersecurity, founded by security engineers and former CISOs, transforms compliance from a headache into a strategic. With AI-driven automation and expert guidance, we handle vulnerability assessments, penetration testing, governance frameworks, and virtual CISO services, all in one place. Get 24/7 monitoring, automated documentation, and expert support for HIPAA, PCI, GDPR, and more. Stop explaining failures. Start celebrating as Cybersecurity.
LLC, your trusted cybersecurity partner based in Arlington, Texas. Since 2016, we've been dedicated to protecting businesses like yours from evolving digital. Cybersecurity isn't just a service, it's our passion. Our mission is to empower organizations with proactive, tailored security solutions that safeguard your data and future. We offer a full suite of services, including vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, 24/7 security monitoring, compliance management, and incident response. Our experts identify risks before attackers do, ensuring your business stays secure and compliant. Our certifications hold industry credentials and bring years of hands-on experience. We stay ahead of the latest threats, so you can focus on growing your business with confidence. With Cybersecurity, you get real protection, real expertise, and real results. Ready to strengthen your cybersecurity? Contact Cybersecurity today at info@celsisbit.com or visit our website to learn more. Cybersecurity, protecting your business, empowering your future. Just made you responsible, but you're not a security expert. Yeah, I've been there. One day you're managing servers, the next you're the cybersecurity guru protecting the entire company. Honestly, it's terrifying. You're Googling what is penetration testing at 2 a.m. while wondering if that email is actually a threat. Here's the thing, you don't need to become an expert overnight. You need a virtual CISO. Cybersecurity's vCISO service gives you certified security professionals who actually know what they're doing. They'll assess vulnerabilities, handle compliance, design security, architecture, basically be your cybersecurity brain trust. No more panic attacks when the CEO asks about security posture. Just real expertise backing you up. Check out Cybersecurity's vCISO services. For cybersecurity doesn't mean figuring it all out alone.
Think twice before plugging that USB into your computer. What if I told you that the one sitting on your desk, or the one someone accidentally dropped near your office, could compromise? Welcome to Cybersecurity Cyber Awareness, where we break down real cybersecurity threats and how to stay safe online. Today's topic, USB device risk. The hidden dangers you plug into your computer. USB drives are everywhere. Portable, convenient, and cheap. We transfer files, boot systems, or charge our device. Problem, because they look harmless, we tend to trust them. And that criminals exploit. A USB device can carry more than your photos or documents. It can carry malware, ransomware, or even hardware-level exploit designed to take control of your system the moment it's plugged in. Let's look at some real cases. Known as bad USB, researchers discovered that attackers could reprogram the USB controller itself, the firmware, to act like a keyboard or network adapter. That means the moment it's connected, it can start typing commands, redirecting traffic, all without clicking anything. And then, USB drop attack. Hackers intentionally drop infected drives in public parking lots, office lobbies, universities, knowing someone's curiosity will get the better. The moment that drive gets plugged in, game over. Again. And you're the one explaining why. That sinking feeling as you prepare to face leadership with the bad news is all too familiar. Compliance failures aren't just expose your organization to fines, reputation damage, and security vulnerabilities. The real challenge isn't your dedication. It's that compliance is a moving target. Change, threats grow, and your team is stretched thin. Celsius Bit, former CISOs, transforms compliance from a headache into a strategic advantage. With AI-driven automation and expert guidance, we handle vulnerability assessment, testing, governance frameworks, and virtual CISO services, all in one place. Celsius Fit, you get 24/7 monitoring.
Hello, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good evening. Depending on the you're watching up. So we'll be starting very soon, and maybe the next 2-3 minutes, right? You can bring on. Okay, let me. So I think we're going to go right. So we have about 1 minute to start, right? I think Grace, over to you, right?
Yes, hi Zach. Hi Dogan.
Hi
John,
Grace.
how are you?
Grace, good to see you.
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, thank you.
Nice to see you.
I'm amazing. All right. Well, good morning. Can we get started though?
Yes, let's do it.
Are you ready?
Okay. Well, yeah, I want to say that it's such a pleasure to welcome everyone to this very exciting session where we'll be diving deep into the real world side of vendor risks, the automation, and of course, cybersecurity leadership generally. Again, I'm Grace Brown, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Now, we know that organizations rely on tons of vendors and SaaS tools. Take, for example, the management vendors. It could be an employee management vendor. It could be a payroll vendor. It could be an HR vendor. It could be even code tools, engineering and code tools vendors. It could also be security vendors, for example, the Rapid7 and the rest of it. And we know very well that when it comes to third-party risks, they have become some of the trickiest things to manage, especially when it comes to overall management and ensuring that they are not vulnerable. Of course, we can't even be sure of that. But then these are things that we tend to look out for, and that risk has become one of those very tricky things to manage. So thankfully, though, I'm joined with 3 major minds in the industry, in the cybersecurity space, who are not only experts in their fields, but also very and absolutely passionate about solving these challenges. We're going to be talking about what I will be asking them a number of questions with regards to vendor risk, third-party vendor risk, and the rest of it. So yes, I'll just do an introduction. First, we have John. He's a co-founder at Desalter, and he's a metrics-driven marketing executive who has helped tons of startups to grow 10 times in revenue. He's also a developer who's turned growth hacker, he's a software developer turned growth hacker, turned startup executive also, who is known for his no-nonsense, get stuff done approach. And he's got very deep expertise when it comes to SaaS, B2B growth, and of course, go-to-market strategy. John also builds teams and processes that deliver measurable impact pretty fast. Second, we have Dogan, who is also a co-founder and a CEO as well. He's a co-founder rather at Desalter, where he has redefined workspace efficiency through artificial intelligence-powered help desks and automation solutions. His entrepreneurial journey started with Gallon, of course. It's a Dubai-based application where he built and sold. And today his focus is on simplifying enterprise operations and empowering teams to work smarter. Then we have Zechariah, who is the founder at Celsius Bit and Group CISO as well at Unity Bank PLC here in Nigeria. He is a globally recognized cybersecurity leader with over 15 years of experience when it comes to driving information security strategy across financial institutions. He's also a multi-award-winning executive, including getting the CISO of the Year in 2023, Global Top 10 Information Security Professionals, and tons others. He's also pretty passionate about advancing cybersecurity innovation through Celsius Bit as an organization, which is pretty expanding across Africa and in the US as well, and beyond, of course. So yeah, this is me saying you're absolutely welcome, John, Dogan, and Zechariah, to this session.
Thanks so much, Grace. I appreciate for the introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, thank you. Yeah, so I will just get right to the questions. Now, if you're in the room, please ensure that to put down your questions in the chat area. I will be reading them out, of course, once we're done with the set questions that we'll be asking the executives. And then, of course, we'll get to that once we're done with that. Thank you. So the first question would be, how would you explain vendor risks?
I think I missed the voice of Grace.
Or to say,
Grace, I think we can begin.
I think she's connecting right now.
Vendors are attacking Grace's system. The vendor is a real thing.
Yeah.
It's happens, kind of like technical issues sometimes.
Yeah.
I think let's see if I can see all right. I think our first question was about explaining the vendor risk to someone in the informal sector.
Yes.
Yeah. We can. The questions why she tried to join us. I think I can get that's the question right here.
So how are you exactly? Grace?
Yeah. You can go ahead.
Yeah.
I think the first question she was asking us that how would you explain vendor to someone in the informal sector? Yeah, maybe somebody that is your friend that doesn't know anything about cybersecurity, or you're explaining to your spouse or grandmother.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Should we start answering while we wait for Grace?
Yes, let's start out right here.
I can go first. I think this is a pretty nice question. I get this type of question a lot of time. Like, even though my parents sometimes don't understand what I do, and I try to explain them basic ways possible. But I will just say, like to my grandma, I'll tell her, like, imagine this: you giving your keys to your neighbor to plant, like to water your plants when you're a while away from your home. And if they lose a key and someone else walking, even though if they have doors are perfectly closed, still it's threat, it's danger. In this case, that vendor risk is a nutshell. Actually, in the business, when you use third-party softwares, any weakness on their side, it can directly, even though if your neighbor, lose the key, but still their obligation is not done because it's impacting your home directly as someone is coming in. So in this way, I can say security is in many ways, even though it's your vendors, it's still yours because you're sharing your data with them and can impact you very badly.
Right. Okay, thank you, John, for that. Dogan, do you want to share your thoughts with us as well?
Oh, that was me. I think next is John.
Okay, that was Dogan. Okay, John, would you like to share your thoughts with us?
No, I think Dogan did explain that very well. So it is how you keep yourself aware that you are not getting attacked. It's getting protection all the time. So it is all about getting prevention before these things happen. And my explanation is that treat all the vendors as a possible attack. So that is how I explained to my grandmother, although my grandmother is not live right now. So.
Okay. Zechariah, do you want to share your thoughts as well? Zechariah, can you hear me?
By the way, Zechariah.
Say it again.
Oh,
sorry. I muted myself, right? So sorry about that, right? So what I would rather say,
no worries,
for my grandmother or my spouse, what I would rather say, I would say that vendor risk is all about shared responsibility. So because if you did not cause the problem directly, your vendor can as well as make a mistake on the behalf, and that mistake of the vendor can also expose you. So to me, if I'm explaining to a non-technical person, I will let them see it from the perspective that if they do all they need to do to protect themselves, but the people that they leverage on for their services can also mess up with them, and also they can get compromised from there, right? Thank you. So I think that was all from my perspective.
Definitely. So for me, I just look at it as, as local as possible. So a woman selling tomatoes, for example, or selling drinks, for example, at the market, sorry, Zach, were you saying something?
No, come back. I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. So and her supplier or her packer supplies some bad drinks or bad tomatoes, of course it also affects her in a way, and that's what vendor risk actually is. It's just the chance that your partner's weakness or your supplier's weakness can also become just about ensuring that everybody that you rely on, everybody that you partner with, everybody that supplies you one thing or the other, one solution or one product or the other, runs as a pretty secure operation, so that your business, of course, doesn't get dragged along the way as well into their problems. So yeah, thank you so much for responding to that. Now I'll move on to the next question while we're also waiting on other conversations from in the room as well. Now, what are some vendor-based breaches that you have seen recently? And what would you say is the typical cost of such vendor-based risks? So we often hear that big companies get hacked through their vendors. Now, there are companies who are very compliant when it comes to standards. Okay, they carry out, for example, quarterly VAPT processes in their companies, but then you can't exactly control how it is from a different body, from a third party. So we hear that tons of big companies get hacked through their vendors. So what I'm saying is, can you give us a few recent examples of such breaches and what you think the financial damage is or the reputational damage is? Anyone wants to go first?
I can take this one first, and guys, feel free to jump in as well, because we have seen several major vendor-related breaches and incidents in recent years that highlights how organizations have come dependent on their third parties. And I have actually a couple of instances come to my mind, because there are so many, but I don't want to bore you guys with all these breaches. I will talk 2-3 of them. First, SolarWinds. Like a couple of years ago, SolarWinds got a malicious software update that compromised thousands of its customers, and its customers include Cisco, Microsoft, and some US government agencies. And these caused hundreds of millions of damage across the ecosystem. Also, Okta came to my mind. Okta was breached. Okta is one of our favorite tools, right? It was breached a couple of years ago, and the breach exposed nearly 5% of all its global customer base, impacting major enterprises downstream. Also, last year, CrowdStrike had a faulty update. The challenge was CrowdStrike is a Microsoft vendor. Because Microsoft is like paused, like crashed, 9 million Microsoft systems crashed, that triggered mass crashes across the ecosystem. Because lots of industries depend on Microsoft, like lots of industries got victimized because of Microsoft crash. One of the affected industries was airline. In one day, more than 5,000 flights were canceled across like United Airlines, Delta, Southwest, so on and so forth. So, and most people blame Microsoft for this outage, but Microsoft was not checking its vendor CrowdStrike. So vendor cause breaches are becoming the new norm, actually. And to answer your second part of the question, on average, based on our research, it's around vendor-based breaches is around 4.8 damage per incident, which is around 15-20% higher than the internal breaches.
Absolutely. I can add a couple of things here. Like what John says is true and actually is happening every day around the world. But one of the instances that comes in my mind is Movit Bridge was actually one of the clearest example. The vulnerability file software was attached to it and being affected worldwide by hundreds of organizations. But those organizations were not hacked, but their vendors were. So the average cost of this related breach around the world is $4.5 to $5 million. But beyond the dollar figure, actually, it's reputation and also operational impact in your organization. So yes, you manage your company properly, all your work, homework, everything perfectly. But what about your vendors? So in this gap, unfortunately, impacts a lot of this organization. Money is a one thing. Yes, maybe Apple has money to pay, 10, 20, $50 million, like once they did impact in this. But what about the reputational damage that Apple or X company is going to get? It's unimaginable. And then that impacts hundreds of millions or sometimes billions of dollars, actually, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Definitely.
yeah, that's a very, very wonderful contribution. Yeah, I think you guys made mention about the weights, and also a couple of months ago, we also know about how our rural HR software was compromised, and this software led to an exposure. So how did the compromise came about? It was a ransomware attack, and it hit all the employees' record were targeted, and obviously that were identified infiltrated data.
Mm-hmm.
So this how bad the vendor risks can lead to exposure, because Volvo, on that part, I believe that they have matured cybersecurity processes, but the software that they're using exposed them to data infiltration breaches. So which is very, very huge as a result of the ransomware attack.
Mm-hmm. And that's it, really. Customers don't care if it was the vendor's fault. It's only your name as a brand that they see in the headlines. So for me, I mean, it's just really immeasurable when it comes to the impact, when it comes to the reputation of the company, and of course the trust that people already have, which is something that a lot of organizations try to prioritize, building brand trust. So imagine having to get exposed to certain vulnerabilities or an exploit just because your vendor or your partner is not properly secure. So yes, of course, these are things that organizations really need to look into. So, I mean, we've been talking about different things, but I would want us to tell or explain to the audience what we think managing vendor risk without losing sleep is. What do you think it means to you personally? John, would you want to go first?
John, you're mute, by the way.
Sorry, my apologies. I
Oh, no, that's
answered
okay.
everything, but I was okay. I'm just sorry. So I think losing a sleep is
Do you?
important.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
I wanted to ask if you wanted me to take the question again, or did you get it?
no, I was just joking. I didn't answer that yet. I'm just saying that it is an important thing that you should lose sleep because I just mentioned earlier Microsoft got hacked because of its vendor, and Microsoft is world's second largest company. If Microsoft is with all these resources and everything got like breached by its vendor, you should think about what can I do? Like, am I being that much less resources and like human capital? So in my own words, if I have to explain that, managing vendor risk without losing sleep, I think I can say that it means turning vendor risk management from a reactive core into an autonomous system that prevents and remediates incidents in real time. So I can focus on growth, not firefighting.
Could you take that again, John?
Yeah.
I would like that particular
So I just
sentence
make lots
again,
of jokes in the beginning. It's because for me, it means turning vendor risk management from a reactive core into an autonomous system that prevents and remediates incidents in real time. So we can focus on growth, but not firefighting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I,
Okay.
I love that, right? I love that.
I
So,
absolutely love it.
yeah. So I will also build maybe on what John just mentioned. So to me,
Yeah.
managing vendor risk without losing sleep, what it is personally is having visibility and trust in the vendors I rely on. So because I have a visibility and trust, I'll be able to focus on what I'm doing. Then and also, it also means knowing my vendors are continuously monitored because I have this
Right.
assurance that okay, I have visibility over my vendors, and also means that my risk management is proactive and not reactive. So sleeping is it because I can sleep because I know my contract and controls are strong. So that means that I'm so much comfortable that okay, all the controls, contracts with the with the vendors, everything is in place. So that will give me the motivation and also the inspiration to focus on my main, on my core, my business, while the vendors do their part to protect me. Thank you.
Okay. So, I have a follow-up question to that. So how do you then decide when vendors are critical enough to warrant deep assessment?
Yeah, to me, okay. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, thanks, Zakaria. Like I can add in this. To be honest, there is a real like math is behind. So this one we use three lenses. One of them is data, access, and dependency. So when we evaluate how critical like this vendor is, first we check what kind of data of this vendor. Is it personal? Is it financial? Or is kind of like regulated? Second, we can identify is the level access is touching our system. Is it deep integration that basically all of our employees' payroll, password, integration, all of our financial information is connected with them? Or is just like maybe is a Google SSO just taking my name and my email and sharing it? And third and last one is going to be evaluate if this vendor tomorrow goes offline, how much it will interrupt my business, like how it's going to disturb us. Because if those are like hitting two or more ground, then this vendor is very critical and has to be assessed, not just one time. Because one of the biggest mistake a lot of organizations is doing assessing their vendors once a year. this is so bad and very dangerous. So a system like these are actually allowing you to assess and monitor your vendors day by day continuously. So that you don't feel bothered. And we have like this early detection system if any attack, like any attack or any vulnerability has been identified. So we can tell you what happened with this vendor. So you can prevent anything that can impact your organization.
Right. Right, definitely. So, Zechariah, from a CISO's perspective, what are the list of things that you would typically look at to then say, okay, this vendor, we need to send them, say, a questionnaire, which should have been sent at the beginning anyways, I believe would have been sent. But what are the things that you would list out and say, okay, well, we've noticed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. This vendor needs some extra assessments besides the initial ones.
Okay, so to me, I believe that the way we manage our cyber security risk, we should also extend that to our vendors. So first and foremost, sure that I have an assurance that the vendor embeds cybersecurity into every stages of the process development life cycle as it relates to us. For example, I want to act the contract. I will check the contract properly. I also want to make sure that the clause like right to audit is being included, so that I also want to be sure whether they are compliant with various regulatory body that governs me. For example, in the bank, we are because we issue card and to customers, so it's part of our requirement that we need PCI DSS satisfied. Also, let's presume that I'm engaging a vendor that rendered one point of a card service to me. I want to be sure that whether they are really compliant with the PCI DSS. I want to see the return, the report of compliance, and also on my home part, if I'm engaging them on a specific kind of software, and I want to be sure that they conduct like kind of a detailed security assessment, like vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. And if they also permit me, I have a team of penetration testers that work with me, and also permit me to conduct that assessment so that I can have the assurance that everything is fine from that side. Also, I also ensure that that the process, and also ensure that there's a kind of a continuous monitoring. Especially, let's presume that they are connected with me via APIs. I want to be sure that I have a visibility on how that connection is being taken care of. Continuous visibility, continuous monitoring, and continuous audit is key to me.
Right. Okay, thank you. John, in your experience as a co-founder at Desalter, has this ever happened where you had to conduct some necessary and extra assessments on a third-party vendor? Has it ever happened at Desalter?
It doesn't happen to us yet. We have all the very good security procedures and onboarding, and we are an early stage startup, so it doesn't happen to us yet, but it doesn't mean that it might happen. So that's why we are getting prepared. Every vendor we get onboarding, we make sure that they are prepared accordingly. Because it happened to us, it doesn't mean that it might not happen in the future.
Right. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully not. Yeah. Okay, so John, what would you say has been the strangest or maybe the funniest vendor security issue that you've ever seen or experienced? Not at Desalter. I mean, you just mentioned that you haven't at Desalter, but overall, in all of your professional years of experience, have you seen or experienced any funny or strange vendor security issue?
Actually, many happens, but I would like to give one recent example. Before starting Desalter, as you mentioned in the introduction, I was a CMO for a while. And a few months ago, I caught up with one of my former co-founders. And less than a week after that chat, their company was breached through a vendor. Every bit of customer data, partner data, employee data, even ex-employee data was exposed. I found out because I got their 2-page of apology email offering free credit monitoring, so on and so forth. It was an ironic timing right after our chat that with co-founder. But honestly, Grace, there is nothing funny about that vendor breaches when the average
About
cost
that.
is nearly $5 million per incident. But that was my most recent funny incident.
Okay, well, that's definitely not funny. That must have cost the company a whole lot, and that's why we need to very much prioritize vendor risks and assess our vendors as well before we even get to start working with them. So yeah, thank you so much for that. Dogan, Zek, do you maybe have any strange security issue that you've seen or experienced in your professional experience, of course?
Yeah. So one of the, as we was just talking and I was listening to John, so something just come to my mind, several years ago, and we engaged a third-party vendor to build an application to us. So definitely we expose the APIs, some of our APIs to them, the API calls, and also we would expose and also ensure that the restriction is done with level right. So that's so few months down the line, so we observe where we are monitoring that we are getting call from a stranger from strange destination, and so when we trace the API call, we realize that it has to do with the key, what was exchanged, the key that was exchanged to our third party, not that third party that we've engaged. So why we engaged them formally for breach of contract, and why are they? So they let we that got to know during the investigation that the developer that was working for them at the point in time have led the organization. That was the developer that was using leveraging on the information to make a call to our APIs, and also we were able to. I know we settled the matter out of court, and we were able to deal with the situations. And also that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. No third party not being good. They do not do due diligence to ensure that whenever their developers are being disengaged, the developers have access to what the critical information that they're not supposed to have access to right now. The very funny stuff and a very serious case, but we were able to manage it, and also before it leads to wider exposure right now.
Yeah. Well, that's actually quite strange, because this is where cybersecurity comes. I mean, it's literally the basics of cybersecurity, ensuring that people who don't work at your company anymore do not have access to what they're not supposed to have access to. It's surprising, but thank you, Zach. Dogan, do you maybe have any of those experiences?
Me too, because like we work with different size of organization, from startup to very mature organization. But one of the startup, actually, they have like really beautiful product, and this founder sent us their like Dropbox file that so he can read something. Actually, he shared his entire production environment into his Dropbox. That was personal. There's no MFA, there's no password. Just send me his credentials. Like, can you look at this documentation that I sent to you? I have so much data in my hand, I can literally destroy him in that same second and just wipe his business in the just matter of a couple of seconds. And imagine a friend that I could do this, and someone that more professional, or someone that who knows what they're going to do, it can create a big impact in the organization. So there's a lot of things happen based on scenarios, but this one actually.
Wow. And imagine that that fell into the hands of people that it's not supposed to fall in their hands. So maybe threat actors, for example, they would do a whole lot. But well, gratefully, that did not happen to the company. So we're happy about that. I'm happy for them that didn't happen. Yeah. So when it comes to vendor management, though, I know very much that there are different phases when it comes to managing a vendor, from the onboarding phase to you doing your due diligence to you ensuring continuous monitoring, like Zechariah mentioned a number of times, and signing documents or drafting documents. Where would you say that companies actually fail in that process? So, of all of those stages, where do they drop the ball? Is it the contract signing? Starting from the contract drafting even, is it the contract drafting? Is it the signing of those documents? Is it ensuring that you're doing your due diligence, or in the process of ongoing monitoring? Because some organizations just, once you onboard a vendor, that's it. They don't try to follow up to see if they're being monitored over time, or if there's certain processes that they have to ensure is done while still being your vendor. In all of this, where would you say that companies drop that ball when it comes to managing a vendor?
I can take that one, Grace. It might be a little bit controversial, but based on what we have seen so far, the biggest failure usually happens after actually onboarding a new vendor, because you have the relief, right? Because once the vendor passes all the due diligence, all the questionnaires, all the certifications, the company falsely assume that the vendor stays safe forever. Like here is like, let me give you more example. Like for example, today is October 11th, right? Like if I receive a vendor's certification, that vendor has certification, it has passed, let's say, SOC 2 certification today, it is just a snapshot. It is just a certification for today. It has nothing to do with the vendor is safe in November 11th. Actually, I'll be honest, because vendor is safe today, October 11th, there is no guarantee that the vendor is safe tomorrow, October 12th. So the threats evolve, systems change, and so do vendors. So you have to do not only do snapshots, you have to do continuous monitoring, and that is the missing layer most organizations overlook. Onboarding, right after onboarding, is the biggest relief. People falsely assume the vendor is safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Zek, you wanted to contribute?
Okay, so for my own, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I just want to build on that. So apart from the onboarding, I think I will stress more on the continuous monitoring. So that's where we get it wrong, because yes, during the onboarding process, if onboarding process is very key, but if we insist that okay, the vendor need to follow the due diligence because they are very aggressive to have a contract with you, they might want to do what you ask them to do, and but most of the time, whenever we are done with the onboarding, monitoring, the risk assessments, most of the time we just feel relaxed, and we don't monitor them. So continuous oversight is where the maturity really shows. So if you continuously monitor the vendor, and also monitor what they do, and also monitor have a strong visibility, have a very good vendor risk management process in place. And when I talk about risk management, it's not just about do the coding assessments. You also need to look at the monitoring. Continuous monitoring is very key. So that's where we always draw the ball right now.
So when you're reviewing these vendors, what would you say are the real world signs that you need to flag immediately? That you need to raise your eyebrows and say, okay, well, this is risky. You need to address this.
Yeah. So to me, whenever you're during the initial process, so if you look at it's very important that we also conduct a detailed risk assessment about the vendor. So if you feel that okay, there's some issue, and if you now realize that there are a lot of back and forth before the vendor agree to terms with you, to me, we worried at that point in time, because I deal with a lot of vendors. I deal with a lot of if I discover maybe a threat, and the vendors telling me that okay, the threat can be overlooked and all of that. That's when I get worried. So definitely I will engage them to ensure that have a one-on-one discussion to ensure that we address this issue, right? So what I normally do before the budget process, maybe before I order the vendor, maybe during the RFP, I will first and foremost check, and part of the RFP, there's an element of risk assessment, the element of threat profiling that we do. So that will keep me in check, so that I will not be onboarding vendor that would give me like also kind of headache, because I don't like all this back and forth price. And because eventually, if you've not fully engaged with vendor and the vendor have not agreed to terms about your the identified threats, so to me that's a red flag, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Dogan, John had mentioned earlier, he talked about how your documentation now isn't the same as your expected documentation in another 1 month. So when you're reviewing these processes, what other flags would you see aside that, and the one that Zek just mentioned?
Yes. I mean, there's often no structure. Like when you are trying to follow this kind of like thing, you just have to build your own. And then when you're doing this security posture, when you're trying to review, you have to keep a lot of things in your mind. So that's where actually automation tools come out, because you are a human and you have so many things to do. Your number one priority is not your vendors. That's a problem, because it's not the priority. That's why it's been always like blind-eyed. That's why rather than just try to take those like manually, so where you can put automation, and then you don't have to do this all, going back to paperwork. Now where I can add also, rather than, doing months taking stuff, can be done in a matter of a couple of seconds, and can create a lot of organization while actually you're not even aware. So maybe at 3 a.m. you're sleeping, something happened, there's no way that you can know. But there are systems that can detect that information and take prevention and precaution steps just while you're sleeping at 3 a.m. to save your business.
Right. No, you're right. I also think that, there's some vendors who would come to you with an expired certification or an outdated certification. This for me would be a very major red flag. So take, for example, you're supposed to present to me a documentation that, say, an assessment that was carried out within your environment this month, and then you're bringing me a report from March. Yeah. So for me, that would be a major red flag. And then, of course, there's some questionnaires. So there was an incident. Do I call it an incident now? That happened at some point in time where we supplied some questionnaires to a particular vendor, and they were giving overly generic answers. And that was it for the company at that point in time. And, we didn't work with them anymore. So yes, these are things that definitely we want to, look out for. Go ahead, please.
No, absolutely. Like a lot of vendors actually we face too when we send questionnaire and whatever we talk in the meeting, and then once it comes to reality, it doesn't. So that's why actually I can also give advice to audiences: make sure you study and do the homework for this vendor, so you don't identify any red flag. Even though they might say they did everything right, there still might be some gap in there.
Yeah, you're very right. So speaking of automation, speaking of artificial intelligence, how would you say that is changing vendor risk management? I know you talked about some advantages already, where you had mentioned that humans are not robots. So of course you won't be able to do everything yourself. So how exactly is artificial intelligence as a whole, or automation, changing that process overall?
I can also take this one. So yeah, you are right. AI is changing the world we do business right now, because we live in cursor / like Replit / like global world. On the other hand, there's a length chain of the world. So AI has made it easier and faster to plug new tools for us, right? And so basically, it is good for me, because rather than hiring 10 employees, I'm hiring 2 employees and I'm hiring all the AI tools. So people are using more and more AI tools. It is great for the productivity, right? But every new connection from the vendor side, every new connection increase your attack surface, because like more vendors requires, like, it means that there's more entry points. Based on
Yes.
a recent study, compared to 2 years ago, average company used 2x more vendors than 2 years ago. So it is like more vendors. So it is good for productivity, but your attack surface increase, and then bad actors know that as well, and bad actors know these things, and they also use these AI tools to attack you from your like increased perimeter. And like as you guys know, like today, more than 75% of all the breaches originate from vendors. That's why automation and AI are becoming essential, not just for detection, but continuous monitoring and real-time remediation, actually. And I just want to also clarify that the goal is not to reduce vendors. Like, you should get more vendors. The goal is to make sure that each one is constantly verified, monitored, and secure.
Yes, definitely. So do you then, when we're speaking of cyber resilience generally, because of course you have to keep your organization safe or your product safe, for example, of course you would have some resilience strategy. Do you then share, say, for example, your incident response playbook with them, just to ensure that you're integrating the vendor risk management into your own organization's cyber resilience strategy?
Do you want me to go, Grace?
Say that again.
Do you want me to go and answer this?
Oh yes, Dogan, you can. It's a discussion. Of course you can.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll say vendor risk has to be treated as like core layer of your security posture. It's not like isolating process, but mainly like, hey, this is something in a core. We're moving towards more all-in-one platform where vendor risk, compliance, trust, and continuous monitoring live together. And so basically, instead of relying only yearly questionnaire, you can bring your vendors into all in this platform where you can track signal, attestation, integration, and all this in really beautiful real one dashboard. So this will give you a lot of resiliency and more actionable steps because your vendor incidents are detected and responded in the same ecosystem. So let's say using X party and then another X party trying to bring all the data in together. So now you're the one who's responsible trying to observe and process. But for example, such a system like DSalta monitor and detect all this and then give you a beautifully clear recommendation step, what to do next step. So all-in-one platform can be really life-saving. Yes, using multiple separate systems might be very helpful, but then you're the one who is responsible trying to get this and then trying to consume and give it. So this is part of cyber resiliency that you can create. And as like, like put this in a core structure to your organization.
Right. Okay, amazing. Dogan, or rather John, do you want to maybe add to that?
I'm good.
John, are you there?
No, I'm good. I think Dogan answered very, very like nicely, so perfectly. I'm good.
Okay, wonderful. So, Zechariah, I want to direct this particular question to you, and it's a follow-up from what Dogan said. So, businesses, there are things that you would say that businesses should start doing ASAP, as soon as right now, or maybe tomorrow, when it comes to ensuring that they're better managing their vendors. What would those be? What they need to start doing ASAP? Just so that they can improve how they manage their vendor risks. Yes.
Okay, so to me, I would say that I think I've mentioned it again, that continuous monitoring, not just the annual checklist or the periodic checklist. Continuous monitoring is very key, and also make sure that make vendor security part of every contract. So because like and earlier on, I mentioned that even before engaging a vendor, before onboarding a vendor, during the RFP process, there's an element of risk management that we introduced, and also the cybersecurity management threat modeling that we introduced. Also, you also need to have a clear exit plan for every third-party relationship, because at the point in time, the third party might be doing well today, maybe over a period of time, maybe because of the complexity of the organization, they might relax their cybersecurity practice, and then you must have a clear exit plan for every third-party relationship. Then you also need to educate your internal teams, and
Yes.
so that everybody they own the vendor risk, so that whoever that is engaging different vendor, because it's not only me that engage vendor, HR, like the case of the Volvo, the HR
Exactly.
was compromised. So definitely the relationship will be within the HR, so the vendor. So we need to make sure that our internal teams are well educated on the on how, and to also know what vendor needs to do when it comes to
Yes.
risk management right now.
Yes. Including, building that for the vendors as well, ensuring that everyone in the organization, or at least the ones that would need to interface with such vendors, know exactly who they are, the kind of data that they handle, and of course, while they were last viewed. And remember, this is the Security Awareness Month, which is why organizations, I would say, should prioritize security awareness programs within the organizations. Like you mentioned, all the teams should actually understand what security is, know exactly how to interface with these vendors, know what to click on and what not to click on. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a question from the chat area. It says that how can you ensure minimum assurance is achieved without auditing the vendor? Emphasis on auditing. I'll take that again. How can you ensure minimum assurance is being achieved without auditing the vendor? Is that even possible?
It is possible.
Would like to.
It is possible, Grace, actually. It's possible with tools like these software. So let's say I'm trying to, like you having talked with me as a Grace, as a company. I have no idea who's Grace, what Grace is doing. And only way that I can know how Grace is secure and trusted, now I have to send you questionnaires, ask for documentation, and so on. So this is exactly auditing. But to come to this step, maybe I don't want to have this engagement with you. So platforms like DSalta, it tracks hundreds of different external signals, and we give you a clear picture about your organization before even having conversation with Grace company.
Right.
Now, without even auditing or starting that step, now I can get a picture about your company, your organization, your posture, your security, and everything. And then now, if I give decision, if I want to move forward and say, you know what, Grace, I have this certain information. Now, can you give me your SOC 2, or maybe this? Can you answer this question? Then this can be achieved in both ways as well. This is what's possible with these actually.
Amazing. Zach, would you want to add to that as well?
So I support Dogan. So if you have a very good solution, like automated solution like this, that's one of the reasons. Part of what we do in Sensolve to partner with various vendors, so that we can leverage on their services to satisfy our customers. So there's something for you to reinvent the wheel. So it's always good for you to leverage on what somebody else have done, or what somebody a robust solution like this, and also part of this this month is the month of cybersecurity awareness. That's one of the reasons why we're doing these webinars. So because part of what we also do with our various customers, so because we do another advisory services, we also look at the size and the complexity of their environments to decide to also advise them on the right tooling and also on the right technology, and also when it comes to compliance management and all of that. So there are different you can actually ensure minimum assurance without you need the auditing, but you can leverage on the automated tooling to actually conduct that audit. To actually check the compliance level of your vendor before you engage them, right? Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Zach. And I have to say that I just absolutely love this sync with Salesforce and Desalter. The fact that Salesforce can, help to carry out those vulnerability assessment and pen tests on vendors to ensure that they're also secure, so they're not passing on risks to other organizations. And the fact that Desalter also can help with compliance and automation and the rest of it, I think it's just a perfect sync. So to those in the room, if you'd like to know more about Salesforce and Desalter, please, you can head on to their pages, whether on LinkedIn or their website. We can also drop that. Sean, if you could kindly do that, share with the room the website for Salesforce and Desalter as well, in the case where people want to, get to know more about the company or try to reach out to them as well for possible services, just to ensure that these risks are not one that is even existent, in processes as organizations. So yeah, if you could do that, please, Sean. Thank you so much. Now, I want to say thank you, an absolute thank you to Zach, to Dogan, and John as well. This has been a very insightful session. Of course, if you have other questions, this is to the participants here in the room. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them as well in the chat area. We would take our time to respond to them. Of course, not on this call because we're already ending this conversation. But yes, please feel free to drop those questions. We would do well to answer them at the end of the day. And overall, we've heard firsthand how innovation, how automation, how very strong and intentional security leadership is already reshaping how organizations manage risks. Dogan and John had talked about how Desalter helps with all of this, and Zechariah has also mentioned how Salesforce would help to ensure that those risks are being eradicated and minimized too, in the case where they just have to be minimized. So of course, we've heard all of these things, how those are reshaping organizations and how they manage those risks, how they scale and how they try as much as possible to stay resilient. Thank you again, John, Dogan, and Zechariah. It's been an amazing one with you. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Thank you for sharing your lessons as well. Thank you for sharing all of the the funny and the strange experiences that you have had, and of course the strategies too. That was really mind-blowing, I would say. And also thank you to everyone. Okay, thank you, Sean, for that. I just
Thank you,
saw
Grace.
your comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Great.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much. So, say that again.
Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
All right, bye.
Bye. Mhm.